The restaurant shimmered with candlelight and crystal chandeliers, music soft in the background, a place chosen for our luxury anniversary dinner. I smiled at my husband, David, expecting celebration, warmth, maybe laughter. Instead, he slid an envelope across the table toward me with an unnerving calm. I looked down. Divorce papers. The room seemed to stop. Diners nearby paused mid-conversation, glasses halfway to their lips. I felt the sting but remained composed, letting my calm mask the storm inside me. Everyone expected me to react, to shout, to cry, but I simply smiled faintly, letting the tension build like a coiled spring. David's smug satisfaction was obvious. He expected shock, tears, perhaps a scene that would humiliate me. Around us, the table felt charged. The staff lingered subtly, sensing the drama. I folded my hands, resting them lightly on the table. My mind raced, not with panic, but with strategy. There would be time for justice, for humiliation, for a response that would leave him reeling. I let the seconds stretch, savoring the anticipation. My calmness became my shield, and already, I could feel the shift in the room's energy. He leaned back, smug, expecting my reaction to give him power. "I think it's best we end this now," he said quietly, voice confident, eyes locked on mine. A few diners nearby turned subtly, noticing the tension. David thought he was controlling the narrative, that I had no ammunition. But he had underestimated me completely. I reached slowly into my clutch, producing my phone. "Actually, I think this is the perfect moment to clarify a few things," I said softly. The calmness in my tone made him uneasy. I tapped a few keys, sending a carefully prepared message to a colleague waiting outside. A message containing details of his secret embezzlement and lies at work, everything meticulously documented over months. Within minutes, the evidence would reach the right people, and his humiliation would be complete. David's smirk faltered slightly, though he didn't yet know why. He thought he had orchestrated my embarrassment, but the real performance was about to begin. The calm before the storm stretched just long enough to make the revelation devastating. I opened the envelope casually, pretending to read, though my eyes were calm and steady. "I see," I said softly, letting the words linger. The waiter paused in the background, sensing the tension. David shifted in his seat, unsure how to regain control. Around us, the subtle murmur of nearby diners had stopped. I smiled faintly, letting him stew in the anxiety I had carefully cultivated. He didn't realize yet that his public triumph was about to become his public downfall. Moments later, my phone buzzed. I glanced down, eyes calm. The message had been received by the key witnesses I had chosen, including his boss and the CFO of his company. Emails and screenshots were already being read, and responses were beginning to appear in real time. David's eyes widened as he realized what was happening. Panic flickered across his face, but the room still didn't know exactly what was unfolding, only that something monumental had just shifted. I leaned forward slightly, voice quiet but deliberate. "You know," I said, "I always thought we'd celebrate this anniversary differently, but perhaps honesty is more fitting tonight." He opened his mouth, stammering excuses, but no words could stop the ripple of evidence that had already begun. The calm, deliberate control I maintained amplified the impact of his unraveling. Around us, subtle glances exchanged at other tables told me the word was spreading. His humiliation would not remain private for long. David slumped, realization dawning. I had not reacted with anger or tears. I had simply let strategy, timing, and preparation do their work. Within minutes, his phone buzzed uncontrollably as his secrets were exposed. Text messages from colleagues, HR, and his boss arrived, all demanding immediate explanation. His smugness had vanished, replaced by panic and shame. I remained calm, observing silently, knowing that the quietest response often carries the most devastating power. When the dinner concluded, I stood slowly, keeping my composure flawless. "I think we've had a very illuminating evening," I said softly, collecting my bag. David's face was pale, his humiliation complete, and the staff subtly acknowledged the tense finale. The calm control I had maintained throughout contrasted sharply with his unraveling, making every moment of his attempted triumph backfire spectacularly. I left the restaurant knowing the night had been entirely mine. Weeks later, David's reputation at work had suffered irreversibly. Friends and colleagues whispered about the night of the anniversary dinner, where elegance met ruthlessness. I had remained poised, calm, and deliberate, turning his attempt to humiliate me into his own public destruction. That evening had taught me a lesson about power, timing, and control. Sometimes, the strongest revenge isn't loud. It's calculated, silent, and leaves everyone watching completely stunned.